welcome to the Hall of Awesomeness. My name is Jason, and I run the entrepreneurship division here at Mindvalley. And thank you. We're really excited to have a special guest for this evening, and this is a brand new series that we're introducing here at Mindvalley. It's called Inside the Mind of. And what we're looking to do is have Vishen, the founder of Mindvalley, actually interview some of the brightest marketers and entrepreneurs around the world to understand what really makes them tick. Because you can talk to many entrepreneurs about what's their strategy to get them success. But one thing that you'll notice for all great people is there's a certain way that they think, and that's what determines their success. So how many of you actually imagine who would you be as a person if you're making $1 million, $10 million, $100 million? You become a different person. You make decisions a different way, and that's really what we're trying to find inside the mind of these amazing entrepreneurs. So I'm very excited for this first event, and I think we have a great turnout. And what's great about having so many people in the room here is I think we have a level of energy that actually goes higher than any other type of event. So how high is the energy for this evening? Not bad. So without further ado, might not need an introduction, but I will be still making an introduction for Mr. Neil Patel, recognized by Obama by one of the top 100 entrepreneurs under 30. He's the founder of KISSmetrics, as well as Quick Sprout and Crazy Egg, many other ventures, and he is still under 30 years old. And he's going to be interviewed by the founder of Mindvalley, who is the founder of this amazing space that you get to stand in. And they're going to be talking for about an hour's time, and we'll be opening up for the questions after all. Are you guys ready? I will, before I introduce him, I will finally say that this event is actually sponsored by the Magic department within the government, who's invited Neil and was able to speak within the Magic Center out in Cyberjaya. So without further ado, Mr. Vishen Lakhiani and Neil Patel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, Neil. So I've known Neil now for a couple of years, and you guys have read this guy's bio. He is one of the most accomplished entrepreneurs I know. I don't know how you pulled off that Obama thing, but you're going to be sharing that. So Neil and I are friends. We've usually when we have conversations about business ideas or entrepreneurship or things like that, it usually happens in bars in LA or San Francisco over drinks.
Yes.
And we wanted to have that same informality with you guys. So this is not going to be a traditional Malaysian style interview. Neil, it's peppermint tea.
All right, let's try it.
Okay, so it's going to be very raw. It's going to be very interactive. And knowing what I know about Neil, what I'm going to ask are the difficult questions. Okay, it's not just business. Inside the Mind Off is about really understanding how crazy people like Neil think. How slightly dysfunctional entrepreneurs who hack everything about their life see and view the world. So let's get started.
All right.
Okay, first off, Neil, how do you find Malaysia? First impressions.
It's actually quite lovely. I love Malaysia. The people are awesome, very friendly. Food is good. The only thing I don't like about Malaysia, and I've been to a lot of different places from Singapore to Bangkok, etc., and all around the world, there's just a shit ton of mosquitoes here. Other than that, and they just like keep biting me, and I've tried like candles that like get them away and all that stuff. Doesn't work out well, but other than that, love Malaysia.
Well, the cool thing about you, Neil, is that because of how Neil thinks and the ideas that he comes up with, he sparks so many amazing thoughts. For example, we went into software. One of the reasons I was so passionate about taking Mindvalley into software is because I was talking to Neil once, and through him, I learned the idea of software subscription services. And that gave me the idea and the fuel to go into a product like Ombana, which has become a really successful app. Also, through talking to Neil in one of our many conversations, I discovered content marketing. Today, Mindvalley has a 4-person content marketing team specializing in the kind of stuff that Neil speaks about. So, first question for you, Neil.
All right.
How do you hack dating?
I thought you were going to ask me about content marketing or...
No, we can read that on your blog.
So I went through a few iterations of hacking dating. I've worked all my life, and I've been a nerd since I was a little kid, right? I started my first business since I was 16. The nerds never did well in high school. And even in college, I was just working so much. It was the jocks, the guys who like spend an hour or two in the gym every day. That's not me, as you can tell. So I went through a few iterations. One iteration was hang out with guys who know a ton of hot chicks and they introduce you, right? doesn't work as well, requires too much work, requires going out. Nah, it wasn't it for me. Then I tried another approach in which I know a ton of girls who are popular on Instagram, Facebook, etc. Like you're talking about a lot of Playboy Playmates, Maxim models, etc. Right? I don't think they have these magazines here. Maybe Playboy. And they would hit me up online and be like, how do I make money? I'm like, what do you mean? You're a Playboy Playmate. You're not making money? They're like, oh, they only paid me $12,000 to be Miss February. And I'm like, that's it? And I'm like, you got to be naked for life on the internet for 12 grand? I'm like, that's a bad deal. So they're coming like, can you teach me how to make money? And I'm like, what do you mean? I teach businesses how to grow their business. I don't teach someone who poses naked how to make more money. And they're like, oh, I'll post about you. I'll tell all my friends how you're awesome. I'm like, what do you mean you're friends? What kind of friends do you have? So from there, they started posting about me on Instagram and stuff like that. And some of these girls have 500,000, 800,000 followers. So I was like, oh, this isn't bad. And then when they post on you about Instagram, you actually get hit up by a ton of other girls. And they'll also be like, hey, what's up? We should hang out. Because these girls just won't post about you. They'll just be like, Man Crush Monday, Neil Patel, my favorite nerd, right? He's so successful. Obama's top, 100 entrepreneur under the age of 30. And the sad reality is I also live in the West Coast of the United States, where a lot of people are also very superficial, in which they either like looks or money. And there's this guy on YouTube, he talks about a dating paradigm in which a crazy hot scale about women and how, you need the right amount of craziness and the right amount of attractiveness. And if they're not too crazy but they're really attractive, you need to go after and marry them. If there's no crazy and they're really attractive, he talks about how they're a transvestite and they're not actually, a girl. So he's just like, you better run away. But and he also has the same skill for men. And I didn't know this, but what he quickly ended up showing in that video was, if you're really good looking, for females, you're considered dateable. Have fun, date, and that's it. If you're a successful entrepreneur and you've done all right financially, you're marriage material, lock it in, right? So I've also adapted my bio, as Vishen read some of it, over the years, and I make sure if anyone Googles my name, the stuff I want them to see shows up. So when my friends introduce me to other girls, and like, you gotta meet Neil. You don't know Neil? And they'll be like, no, I don't know. They're like, just Google him. You gotta Google him. And that's it. And they're just like, oh my God, I wanna go on a date with him. And they're usually really nervous and I don't do anything. And they're just like, you're so successful. It's like, I never imagined I would be dating someone like you. I'm like, all right. So, but it was pretty much SEO for dating that's helping.
So anyway, boys and girls, what did you learn today? Okay, so I asked that question, Neil, because I wanted to give them an idea of how you think. Neil is one of the smartest people I know. Let's talk about something else completely different, because everybody knows you for your online marketing stuff. How do you make money in real estate? Because you've done really successful there in really unusual ways.
Sure, so it doesn't matter if the economy is good or bad. There's always death and divorce in the world. Anytime there's death and divorce, there's usually a deal to be had. There's a third one too. It starts with a D. I don't know the word, but it's usually revolved around debt. That is actually the third one, debt. So what I do is I look for people who are struggling financially. For example, I almost bought a house in Newport Coast. I didn't get it. It was worth 2.4 on the market. And the couple was going through a divorce, and they're willing to sell it at 1.8 if someone would just come and buy it within the next week. So I tried doing it, and I'm like, I'll take it for 1.7. I'm Indian, so I got extra greedy. And then someone who was American came in and paid the 1.8, and I'm like, damn it, right? But I should have just paid the sticker price. So in America, what ends up happening is with condominiums, high rises like this, you don't sell them all right away. You sell them over time. As you're selling them, if you don't sell them fast enough, you got to renegotiate your bank loan because you got to pay the bank off for the building. So typically what I do is when they're about to renegotiate their bank loan, I know a lot of people in the banking industry, I go in there and I'll be like, hey, you're not 51% occupied. Without the 51% occupancy, you're not going to get the bank approval. So they may be 48%. They may need to sell a few units. I'll go in and I'll buy those units so that way they can qualify for a bank loan, and I'll pay pennies on the dollar for them.
That's a beautiful tactic.
So like in Vegas, I live in the Mandarin Oriental. It costs them $1,000 a square foot to build each penthouse. I ended up buying them for $250 a square foot.
Wow. Rumor has it that you popularized the infographic.
Maybe.
Have you guys, let me just pre-qualify that question. I don't know if you guys know this, but one of Neil's first software companies, KISSmetrics, right? He got it really, really, really massive through infographics. Rather than paying money on advertising, he created infographics, and he was one of the first people to pioneer content marketing. Now all companies do it, but Neil really pioneered it, releasing great content that goes viral so people find your product. Tell us about content marketing and how you stumbled upon it and how you popularized the infographic.
Sure. The way I ended up stumbling upon it was actually a company called Mint. So Mint back in the day was a financial company that Intuit bought for like $100 and something million, and they were trying to teach people how to save money online. Mint started creating infographics on things like the most expensive places to live in the world, Zurich being number one. I didn't know that until I saw the infographic. But it was just the financial industry, and I'm like, wait, why isn't everyone doing this for all the other categories out there? So I took that concept and I started doing it at scale, because Mint may release an infographic once a month or whenever they have time. And I found designers on Dribbble to do design work for $600 an infographic, including the research. And I just started cranking them out. And they're like, how many do you want to buy? I'm like, how many can you make? I'll buy one a day if you can make me one a day. Usually a designer can do no more than one a week, but I was just buying as many as possible, pushing it out there before anyone else, because I knew if something isn't popular yet, but people are loving it, the one who's first to go out the gate and make it mainstream is the one who's going to get all the traffic, the links, the notoriety from it. So that's why I just push hard and I double down on it.
And how did that work out for you, like in terms of KISSmetrics?
Sure, so for KISSmetrics, we spent $600 on each infographic. I believe 42 infographics drove us like 2.5 million visitors or something like that.
2.5 million visitors. How much would you make from something like that?
Hundreds and thousands of dollars every single month.
Awesome. And now, I know something happened with KISSmetrics. You had to give up the business. Tell us that story.
Yeah, so didn't have to really give it up, but more so we got screwed by the government and also by a lawsuit.
Was this after Obama named you one of the top 100 entrepreneurs or before?
Before, I still got the award. So I
Nice.
got messed up there. Obama didn't know about that part.
So what did you do that Obama didn't discover?
Okay, so what ended up happening is there's these things called cookies. You guys all know about it. It tracks you. You guys don't like it, so you delete them. I found out that if I put a flash cookie on your computer and you delete it, it still stays on your computer. Now that may sound sneaky, but the reason we ended up doing it is because we're an analytics company. We have high server data costs, right? So if we put a cookie, a flash cookie, and there's no laws against this in the US, what ends up happening was our hosting costs went down by 30%, which is a lot when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And as a startup, you do whatever it takes to save money. Now, because there's no laws, they still assumed we were doing things that were bad. So Wired Magazine, as well as ABC TV, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Boing Boing, a lot of sites all started publishing how we were sharing data, and which we were not sharing data. So the government investigated us, the FTC, saying, hey, are you sharing data? Let us look at your code, etc. And they found that we were doing nothing wrong, so they let us go, but we had to pay a lot in legal fees to deal with them. The class action lawsuit, in America, it's a funny world in which sometimes we could have defeated it in court. The chance of us defeating it were like 98%. The legal cost to defeat it in court was going to be around like $1.2, $1.4 million. To settle, it cost us $500,000 or so, something like that. I forgot the exact amount. So we just settled because that's cheaper than trying to beat it in court.
So you settled, and then what happened with KISSmetrics? Are you still running the business?
I don't run it anymore. I'm a chief evangelist. I go around talking. There's a CEO in place. We struggled to raise money during the lawsuit. We did end up raising money though. And over time, I've just been doing it for 5-6 years. Still love the company. I'm still there. I just don't want to be in a management role because we've grown to a size where there's too many people for me. Not as big as Mindvalley, but too many people to manage, and that's actually my biggest weakness in business. So at that point, that's always when I step away from a management role and I stick with something else, like running marketing or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Even though you say management isn't your thing, right? There are a couple of things that you do that's really interesting. One of the other things that Neil hacks really well is employee retention. So if you think about San Francisco, one thing I hear so many startup entrepreneurs complain about in San Francisco is the fickleness of people, because there's so many startups.
That's correct.
You hire people, but it's hard to retain them because there's always something better around the horizon, yet you have a really high retention rate. How do you pull that off?
Yeah, so we don't spend money on anything fancy, no offices, no foods, none of that kind of stuff. And we don't always pay people the best wages. What we've ended up finding out was by being actually really loyal to people and taking care of them from a personal aspect, not just a business aspect, you can typically retain them for a long time. Now, for example, my lead designer at the time was getting paid $80,000 a year. He got an offer from Campaign Monitor for $200 and something thousand a year. He did not take the job, when logically speaking, he should have. Why? Because I take care of him personally. So, you know, with work, they say, keep your personal problems at home, and when you go to work, just work. I try to understand every one of my employees' personal goals and problems that they may encounter, whether it's with them or their family or whatever it may be, and I actually try to help them solve it. Because if I can help them solve it, they'll really appreciate it, and very few people ever leave. And we actually haven't had any of our key employees really leave. It's more so the ones that we don't work out culturally, we know they're going to leave, or we want them to leave, so we try to find something else for them. And we also have some people who leave that are like in high roles, but they come in and we know beforehand that they're only going to be a temporary candidate, in which they'll last maybe a year before they go into their next startup, and that's okay. We go into it not giving them a position in which they have too much power, because when you lose them, it's devastating.
That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful idea, and something that immediately any of you could take back to your company. What other tips would you give in terms of being in a leadership role in a company to create great culture?
Yeah, it's all about having similar values. So just because someone's smart doesn't mean you should hire them. Being smart is one thing, and yes, you want to hire people who are smarter than you, but you need to hire people who have the same morals, values, whatever it may be, whether they believe spending time with family is important, or they believe in transparency and letting people know information. For example, I believe Mindvalley published their revenue numbers at one point, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's transparency, and that's awesome, right? Not only do people in the company know, but other people on the outside know as well, and you can learn from their ups, their downs. You've had a lot of ups. I'm assuming there's been some bad moments as well, and you've come through them and you've succeeded. But it's just finding people who believe in the same stuff. It's also where you recruit them from too. We find that people who follow us on Twitter usually have some of the same cultural beliefs as we do. So Twitter is actually our #1 external recruiting channel. Our #1 internal one is word of mouth, so like employee referrals.
That's awesome. Now we're going to start asking you a couple of questions on other fields that you're in. For example, Neil builds amazing sales teams, and he's a jack of all trades type of guy. But before we go there, one more interesting question. How did you patch things up with Obama? How did you get on that list?
Okay, so Obama, or there's this organization called MPAC. They run an entrepreneurship award for, at that time it was the White House. So for every year, in partnership with the White House and the president, they select the top 100 entrepreneurs. And the way they select them is pretty much based on revenue and whoever applies. Not everyone knew about it. So they're like, hey, can you end up creating press for us, spread it around? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna apply, so that way there's less competition. and, and I also made sure that I had good revenue numbers, because I was like asking the guy, I'm like, hey, what's the revenue numbers that most people apply? And I found the numbers. I'm like, all right, cool, we're high enough. So it wasn't that hard. And then at that point, because I've been in business for so many years, at that point I then ended up promoting and making them more well known. But when I first applied, I was just like, I want to make sure I make the list no matter what. And I actually figured out which company to apply for, because I don't like revealing my revenue numbers. So I was like, all right, what do you think is going to be, the 99th spot? What do you think the revenue is going to be? So I picked a company that would be at least in the top 30, just in case if the revenue numbers were a lot higher. And I made sure the guy wouldn't actually reveal the numbers. I'm like, hey, I'll show you tax returns, but you can't publish them online.
I see. That's brilliant, because that's one of the most impressive things on your bio.
Yes. And I got the United Nations ones, top 100 entrepreneur under age of 35.
How did you pull that off?
Same organization. They switched from doing it with the White House to the United Nations.
Can you introduce me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm waiting for the next president to come in house, so whoever it may be. So I'll be like, yeah, Neil Patel, top 100 entrepreneur under age 30 from Obama, top 100 entrepreneur under age of 35 from whoever
Hillary
the new president
Clinton.
is. Exactly.
That's cool, Neil. I'm very envious. You should have shared that with me earlier, like about a year ago when we were.
Yeah, I can get you on the list.
Awesome.
Wait,
Thank
is
you.
your company based out of America now? American
Sadly, no.
corporation? Can't qualify.
Okay, so next question. You told me you travel like 2 weeks of the month speaking around the world.
Yes.
Why do you do it?
Meeting more people, networking and branding. I think branding is priceless, and the bigger your personal brand, the more opportunities that you have. And from my personal brand, I can always, for me, it's like my backup. So if my entrepreneur career doesn't work out, I can go probably get a job at Microsoft for like 600 grand or $1 million a year. So I keep building up my personal brand, speaking, etc. Plus it makes really good money, right? Like I'll do a 30-day tour and I'll speak at 6 events. And after all my costs, and like I have a high cost because like I'm flying my dad to London, I'm staying in Hyde Park, right? I'm taking him to a soccer game, like all these expenses add up really fast. I'll still probably net like 60, 70 grand in 30 days from speaking just quick 30-minute talks, 1-hour talks.
That's impressive. 60 or 70,000 US dollars. That's about 200,000 ringgit. Not bad.
It's not bad. I don't even know where that money goes. I don't even see it. That's the sad part.
And you said something interesting earlier. You said it helps with your personal brand, right?
Yes.
In case you ever lose your current role as an entrepreneur. So, if you had to start over, and someone asked this, okay, Sean Patrick Simpson asked this online, if you had to start over creating a successful business online, how would you go about it?
It's actually funny. I get this question every so often from entrepreneurs saying, what would you do if you had to start over again, or if you're given more money or only a limited amount, $100? I actually wouldn't be an entrepreneur. It's taken me a long time. I do all right? It's obvious that my companies do well enough where I can make at least 7 figures a year. But I think I could have actually made enough money without having any stress, just getting a job at like Goldman Sachs and being in iBanking and being an investment banker and going on Wall Street. Whatever I put my mind to, I usually try to figure out loopholes, angles, things that I can tweak, like little tricks to beat the system in which I can get to the end goal quicker. So it's like, if here's a starting point and here's a finishing point, A is the starting point, C is the finishing point, everyone's like, okay, I'm gonna go from A to B to C. I'm just like, no, how can I just jump to C? Or how can I go around B, right? I always look for the quickest route to achieve whatever I want. And I think if I worked in the corporate world, I could have, at this point by the age of 29 right now, I think I could have made $2 to $3 million working for someone else. And it's not bad. And plus, the beautiful part is the stress would be extremely low. Right now, I love being an entrepreneur, but the hours I work are just a lot. And it's like, after a while, the stress, I'm fine with it. I'm really good at coping with it. But I think working for someone else is much more easier and a stable.
But wouldn't that completely kill your dating life? I mean, entrepreneur is so much sexier than Wall Street banker, especially in America.
Sadly, in America, if you have money, dating isn't hard.
Good point.
It sounds bad, but people are materialistic. They want comfort like, oh, I don't have to worry about food or a home or whatever it may be.
So back to what you said earlier, right? You said you like to hack everything.
Yes.
You like to figure out how to get straight to Z rather than go through the usual
That's correct.
paths. Explain that. I get it, but for everyone else in this room, what is hacking? What type of mentality? How do you have to view the world to be a hacker like you?
Most people view hacking as cheating. I don't view hacking as cheating. You don't necessarily have to cheat to get to the end goal. You have to look at, what does someone want? So usually, to get to that end result, someone else controls that destiny. You're not always in control. For example, being an entrepreneur and making millions of dollars doesn't mean you're in control of that destiny. You're collecting that money from someone. Is it the customer? Is it another company who's paying you a big lump sum? Is it someone trying to buy out your business? So what I try to do is figure out what makes that person tick. What's missing in their life, whether it's personal or business, whatever it may be, what's that void that I can fill? And I quickly look for angles and different techniques to get in there and relate to them. Also, I study a lot of psychology, so I'm really big on that, in which I'll study how humans behave, what makes them relate to people. So for example, if I'm in a business meeting with the executive, I know the chances are, if I want money out of him, if I talk about money in business, he's gonna be bored. Why? People do that all day long, and he knows someone's gonna be after money from him. So I'll actually do the opposite. I won't talk about money. I'll talk about just random stuff, and I'll try to find out about his childhood, stuff he does in life, what he enjoys, his kids, and I'll actually relate to him. So for example, if he talks about his childhood and how he fell off a tree, and maybe I fell off a tree when I was a little kid, I'll tell him a very similar story on how I fell off a tree, because it'll make him relate more to me. It'll make him feel like he's known me for a much longer period of time. Also, I'll get out of that conference room. So offices are greater environments. So if I was in Mindvalley, I would actually hop around from section to section, because it would make the person feel like we're in a different location each time, which would also make them feel like they've known you for a much longer period. When you know someone for a long period of time and you feel very comfortable and you have a lot of similarities, you're much more likely to do business with them.
That's a really interesting psychological hack. I've read about that.
It works extremely well. And you can also do things like mimicking body language. If they're the alpha male, you let them be the alpha male of the group, right? You'd be like, oh, I'm the, I'm trying to find a polite word. I'm the bitch, in essence. But yeah, it's all about playing to their strengths and weaknesses.
So what are you doing to me right now, you bastard?
If I told you, it wouldn't work anymore.
True. Now, give us one tip, one simple tip about the way the world works today that maybe isn't apparent to everyone else here, but if they understood it, if they could see it like you, they might be able to take advantage of that.
So the biggest thing that most people don't actually see, you guys are all here trying to start businesses, I'm assuming. Is that correct? In the business world, people think you have to have the best product and be the smartest to win. It's usually the person who's the most liked and the most well-networked that typically wins. So instead of spending your time just focusing purely on building an app or a company, you got to figure out how to network and be loved. What I mean by being loved is try to figure out what makes you unique versus anyone else. So for example, I'm not that big, muscly jock. I could go work out at the gym, but if I worked out at the gym, these tech guys would probably be much more intimidated by me. By me looking like a nerd, dressing like a nerd, I blend in more with them. They're like, oh, I can relate to Neil. He's one of me, right? He's like me. Because it's the nerds that write the check. It's not the guy that can bench 300 kilograms that can write the check, right? So I'm relating to the guy that is the decision maker. And I'm trying to figure out what appeals to him in life. And like, I'm just really adapting. For example, I met a billionaire the other day that I'm working with, and the guy's worth around $6 billion. He's in his late 80s, and he's trying to figure out how the internet works. Bless you. So he's trying to figure out how the internet works. I figured out that, hey, I can get along with him. I can tell him stories related to me, and I was able to get a big 7-figure contract by just teaching him how the internet works for a few hours every single week. And that's it. All because he can relate to me and he liked me and he got along and we had tea together and we chilled and that was it. It's all about networking and how you get introduced to people and how you can bond with them. And the biggest key is when someone has money and trying to do a deal with them, do the opposite. Don't ever try to approach him, ask him for anything. Like, he's a billionaire. He would think that he can buy anything in the world, right? So when he's talking about it, he's like, yeah, I would love tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, I would love to help you. I'm just so busy and I have so many opportunities, I don't know if I can end up making the time for you. And in his eyes, he's just like, screw you, I'm a billionaire, right? He didn't say that, but he's just like, I'm a billionaire, I can buy you. He could buy me and I would sell myself to him. But if I ended up saying, yes, I'll take, how much do you want to pay me? He'd be like, all right, I can pay this guy just like anyone else. But by me telling him, no, I don't know if I want to work with you, he's like, what the hell, I'm worth way more than you. I'm on the Forbes list, you're not. Why are you telling me you don't want to work with me? Something's wrong here. So he's just going to be like, you know what? I'm going to get you to do whatever I want. I'm just going to keep throwing money at you until you accept something. So it's just going with the opposite.
You make a ton of money building sales teams. Go ahead and tell us about that.
Sure. So sales teams are, what most people don't realize is whatever revenue your business has, usually if you add a sales team, you'll double to triple your revenue. What I'll end up doing is I look for scrappy sales guys who work in industries like the car dealership industry, in which they don't get paid much, commission only, they gotta fend for their paycheck every single day. And what I'll end up doing is I'll recruit people out of these industries that have a tough time selling. And what I'll end up doing is they're green, they're fresh. I'll teach them how to sell from the ground up, from relating to people. When you pick up the phone, just have a conversation with them. Don't necessarily sell them on anything, right? All those types of things. And what we'll do is we'll create a process and a script, figure out what objections people have. Because eventually, people ask the same thing over and over again. It's just like dating. If you go to a club and you talk to a girl 100 times, you'll get the same questions over and over again. So then if you understand and you see the patterns, and then you're like, oh, I should just say this the next time they ask it, people are like, wow, you're so smart or clever or witty. It's the same thing with sales. You get the same questions and objections over and over again. And if you can figure out a script to answer those objections, you can actually sell quite a bit. And it's all about scripting, figuring out the process, and then growing from there.
So give us like an example. How would you go about starting a sales team in your company?
Sure. So one, you need to focus on leads. People do sales the old school way, in which they're like, all right, we're going to dial and try to collect leads and phone and try to close deals. That's the old way of doing sales. The new way is you generate content. You create content out there, you build a great brand, you give so much value that people are like, wow, you guys are awesome, and we love you, so what do you guys do? And they're like, hey, check out a webinar, an ebook, etc. You're collecting a lead, an email, you drip them, you collect a lead, right? You then pass the leads to a sales guy. The sales guy then calls up the lead, and he starts the process. He first starts talking about their business or whatever it may be. Hey, what pain points do you have? What problems? In an ideal world, if you can wave a magic wand, what would you like solved? And if we can solve that, he'll start discussing solutions for them. If we can't, he'll let them know, hey, we can't help you. If they're unrealistic, we'll let them know they're unrealistic. We can't do much for you. Because the problem with sales, where it really breaks down in most organizations, sales guys don't communicate with the rest of the team. They sell them on whatever they can so they get the commission. Mm-hmm. And then the clients just churn and leave away. So we tie sales guys' commission based on how long the customer actually stays. So the longer they stay, the more money they actually make. So it's in their best interest to focus on the deals that are the most relevant and pitch them the honest truth. And it's all about problem solving. So if you can teach the sales guys concepts, most sales guys are cookie cutter. Give me a paper and I'm going to read off of it. It's no, I'm going to teach you how to be a consultant. I'm going to teach you how to analyze, critical think. And people are going to throw out problems to you, and you need to be able to solve those problems, because if you can solve them in just a quick sales pitch, people will sign up with you all day long.
Awesome. Now let's go to another aspect of what you mentioned, content marketing, right? To get leads.
Yes.
So somebody tell me what business they're in. Anyone? Design, okay, so a design consultancy firm. Anyone else? Training. What type of training? Dating. What type of dating?
I'm like, how do you train someone on dating?
Yeah, you charge people to date you? What? Oh, a dating app. Okay. So
like Tinder?
Okay. Okay, so design, dating. Give me one more. I have no idea what a youth creative agency is.
Me neither.
They make creative youth? Okay, so education. Okay, all right. Someone else? Sorry, a bit complex.
Crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding.
Like
Okay.
Kickstarter.
Okay. So let's say. So I'm going to pick crowdfunding and design. Okay. Give us an example for those two real businesses. How would they get into content marketing?
Okay, so for design, you're selling design services, correct?
Keep it simple. Let's just say it's a design consultancy. You make websites.
Okay.
Just pretend. This is just an
so
example.
If you, all right, let's keep it really simple. So let's say you sold design services. What I would actually do is say, you know what, we're going to give away the farm. We're going to show Photoshop screenshots. We're going to actually teach people how to design, how to make more usable sites and blog about it, usability tips, etc. So doing that kind of content, people will start reading it and they'll be like, wow, these guys are good. I could try to learn it, but why not just hire them? Another thing I would do, I would start nitpicking companies that have venture-backed financing. More than $10 million, less than 50. That's a sweet spot. Usually you can get to decision maker really fast. It's one person, they can sign off on a decision. And from there, what I would do is I would take their websites and do teardowns. Here's what you shouldn't do. And then give an example and tear it apart and talk about how certain things are not usable, what they could improve, etc. And make it very educational. Just don't pick on them because you want their revenue. Pick on them because they're not doing things right and people can actually learn from it. And you can actually make it a much more educational experience. So someone could be like, wow, I learned how to do X, Y, and Z. What you'll find out is 1 out of 3 out of those type of posts you do, you'll get a call and they'll actually hire you. So those are some examples of content marketing that I would do for design. And you can also get into psychological things like the meaning of colors, how colors affect conversions, etc. Right? How to optimize your form fields for conversions. Those are all design type of content that you can end up creating. So if you release those, it would be hot, it would spread. If you don't have a popular blog and you don't know how to jumpstart it, nor do you have the time to blog consistently, I would just find all the design blogs out there. I would first email them. The first email would be like, hey Vishen, you got an awesome design blog. I just want to let you know I've been a big fan, I've been reading it for years. But by the way, with this post, if you actually mentioned X, Y, and Z, you could have hit on these points, and I think the post would have actually been much more popular, right? And you would actually usually respond back with, wow, thanks for the feedback. Then I would wait a few days and be like, hey Vishen, I got this idea. You guys don't really talk about colors. Colors are a huge aspect of design. Why don't you guys do a post on how colors affect purchases? And if you don't have the time, because I know you're such a busy guy, I could just write it for you, I'll do it to you as a favor. Let me know if you want me to write the post for you. And by the way, here's some other posts I've written around the web. If you haven't written around the web, just attach some samples of posts you've just written right then and there. And there's a good chance you would actually respond back and say yes, because I created the conversation with you earlier.
Those are beautiful ideas. I've used these ideas in my own business, and I can tell you they really, really, really work. Now, Neil, you have a blog where you teach people content marketing.
Yes.
Tell us, what's that URL? Where can people sign up for that?
Quick Sprout.
Did everyone get that? How many of you are on QuickSprout?
Decent amount.
Awesome.
Nice.
And read his newsletters. They're some of the most, I don't normally read a lot of like the marketing emails I get in my mailbox, but Neil's are really, really, really amazing, intelligent, powerful info. Just today I was recommending to my entire content marketing team to subscribe to your blog and stalk you.
Cool.
So let's try a different marketing exercise, right? Something a bit more challenging. The girl with the dating app.
Okay.
How would you market an app?
Are you targeting men and women?
Yes.
So it's just like Tinder for Malaysia.
Yeah, but it's global.
Okay, so Tinder for the world. Okay, so let's just assume you're gonna do Malaysia because the world's probably not gonna work. Sorry, but that's okay. Perfect. What I would start doing is start releasing dating stats in Malaysia. So for example, I would talk about where are the most single women, right? And I would start pinpointing the regions there actually are. So if you're gonna get an apartment, where should you live, right? If you're looking to find the perfect match, where's the best cities? Where's the best clubs? Where are the best bars to hang out? All those types of posts would actually go really well. I would actually start doing also advice, how to date someone within your workplace without getting in trouble. Right? Those type of content pieces would be like, oh damn, this girl in my workplace, she's banging. I really want to like talk to her, or hang out with her, or date her, whatever it may be. But I don't want to get in trouble, right? So it's like, you can start writing about that. What do you do if you got rejected in your workplace, right? You can start doing all those types of posts.
Please don't give my employees ideas.
Okay, everyone at Mindvalley, you guys should find a partner at Mindvalley within the next 30 days. For everyone who does it, I'll give you like $100.
So a typical question would be, how did you make $1 million, right? But I know in your case, you actually have an interesting story of how you lost $1 million.
Yes.
Share that with us.
So I've lost $1 million a few times. The first time I lost $1 million was actually in a web hosting company. I had this concept as a kid that servers are very inefficient. So I used to get on these social sites like Dig, and you get so much traffic that it would take down your server. And you would then have to start buying 2, 3 servers. And I was like, I'm an Indian guy, I'm really frugal. I'm like, there's all these other servers out there and people aren't using their resources. Why can't I just combine all these servers together and everyone share the resources? Kind of like the cloud, but at that time there was no cloud. So I started creating it. I invested in bad people in Rockwell, Texas, so it's a state within the United States. Those guys never executed. It took them more than a year, never got anything up. And I was young, naive. I wasn't even 21 at the time, or I was 21, somewhere around there. The lady who I funded, one of the partners, she said how she had cancer. I paid for her cancer treatment. She said she was getting kicked out of her home. I was so naive, I even bought the home. I don't know why I didn't even rent the home, right? Instead, I just bought it. That was so silly. And I did stuff like that, and what ended up happening was eventually one of our checks for the business went to that address, and it was in the wrong name, so they created a corporation with that name, they cashed it, and then they bounced out of town. And they just left whatever was there, and they took all the assets and sold whatever they could. And that was my first $1 million that I lost. I borrowed a lot of that money, so I had to actually pay it back. And I did pay it back. It took me 1 year to pay it back.
Wow. Well, it's good to know that even you experienced like major downs like that.
Yeah, at that time I actually tried quitting as an entrepreneur. I'm like, you know what, screw this. I'm just gonna go get a job at Microsoft, for $100,000 a year, and maybe after 20 years I'll pay it back.
Yeah, no, not Microsoft. I worked there. So what gave you the fuel to actually keep going? You lost $1 million. You were young. You were naive. You wanted to quit being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
What made you continue?
I didn't know how to find a job at that point in my life. So I'm like, all right, screw it. Let's just keep being an entrepreneur.
So what is your second business?
The second business, so I went back to the first business, the consulting agency.
Mm-hmm.
And the hosting company was the second one, major one that failed. And I also realized during the failure, it also hit me like a week into it. I was like, you know what? I failed this bad and I learned this much. I can't screw up worse than this, right? And I actually did later in my career, right, with the lawsuit. But that's actually what kept me going. I'm like, the chances are if I started something now, I probably won't fail this bad and I'll probably make money. So I went back to consulting and I did quite well. And then I got into software. And the reason I got into software is I realized there were such high multiples. If you make, like $1 million, someone can buy you out for like 8, 10, $15 million when it doesn't logically make sense from a financial aspect, right? The ROI wise. And I was like, wow, you're actually building equity. So I started getting into software.
And that's something that Neil helped spark in me. What we found is that if you build a software company, it could be an app, it could be a software as a service product. If you can get to revenues of about $1 million, you can sell that for about 10 to 15 million, depending on the industry you're in, if you know how to network and find the right buyer. There are lots of large public companies who snap these little software plays up, bundle them up with their own collection, and then help them grow. So software is a really, really, really interesting business.
That's correct. And in the US, every engineer you have in your software company is usually worth at least $1 million.
Really?
So when someone acquires you, even if you have no revenue, but you have a lot of good engineers, usually you can get paid $1 million per engineer.
So how does that work? You just put chains on them and you sell them into slavery?
Yeah, to like a Google or a Facebook.
Right.
And they usually get paid more, so they're happy.
No, see, this is Malaysia. Sarcasm is an American trait. People might really think we're talking about selling people into slavery.
Oh, yeah.
You need to explain that.
No. You don't sell into slavery.
If you are a developer, Mindvalley is still hiring. Please don't judge me. Neil, explain.
Yes, and keep in mind, when this happens, the developers actually usually come out ahead more than anyone else.
Right.
So they get taken care of. Developers are treated like gold in America. Like they're so rare that they get taken care of no matter what business they go to.
So what happens is if Google buys your company, the developers typically, if they were there early, if they helped build a product, they get some rewards, 1-2 year salary maybe. Then they go and work for Google, and they might get Google stock. So that's how it works.
And on top of that, Google will pay them more money than what they made at the startup. And if they weren't early and they didn't make any money from the startup, usually the Googles, the Facebooks of the world will take care of that engineer individually, and they'll actually give them a bonus for signing on.
That's really
so
cool.
These
So
big
it's a win-win
corporations-
for everyone.
Exactly.
Right, so no shackles needed.
No shackles. No eating food off the ground. They serve you free food.
So Neil, what was it? What is your creation story? Like every entrepreneur often had something happen to them. Sometimes it was trial by fire. Sometimes it was a massive failure. It was an insecurity that they had to prove. What made you become an entrepreneur? What made you Neil Patel?
Consulting. So I built my name, my brand, and I got most of my abilities from consulting. Not because I'm the best consultant, but because I touched so many businesses over a period of like 5-6 years, I learned a lot about almost any industry, from finance to the railroad industry, to oil and gas, to pharmaceuticals. I got to dig into so many different types of businesses, analyze what makes them grow, what doesn't, what issues they run into. That taught me how to actually be an entrepreneur. And that's what led me to actually creating a company, a software company, and growing.
And what advice would you give? So let's do a quick poll to figure out who's in this room. How many of you here have your own business or are a freelancer or a consultant? Just raise your hand. Okay, so about half of you. How many of you here work for a business? Okay, so either way, whether you work for a business or you are a freelancer or consultant, what Neil is talking about is highly applicable. Neil, what advice would you give first to the entrepreneurs in this room or the aspiring entrepreneurs? If you could give an advice to the group of people in this room, what would be your biggest, most powerful piece of advice that might help them get ahead?
Don't start the product right away or your business right away. Actually go out there and learn. So talk to many different companies, whether you're getting paid or you're doing it for free. Give them advice, give them feedback, learn from them, dig into their business, find out what works, what doesn't work. This will actually teach you what to do and what not to do. The best thing that you can do in life is not make mistakes and learn from it. It's actually look at other people's mistakes, learn from it, and avoid those mistakes. So that's what I would do before I start my own business if I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
I see, good point. Now, what about the people here who are not entrepreneurs but are career people? What advice would you give them on how to get to the next level in their career?
Sure, so what I would do is, the problem with most people who work for corporations, they feel like, not everyone, but a lot of people are entitled. I want more money. I helped you with this. Pay me more. And everyone wants something, which they want more responsibility, they want more money, whatever it may be. What you need to do is stop thinking about it from, I want this, to who's my boss? Who's my owner? What can I do for them that'll make them happy so that way they're willing to give me what I want? It's pretty much just bargaining. Think about it just like a relationship. It's give and take. So you got to figure out with them, what can you do to help them out, to make them succeed? And in exchange, what will they do for you, right? And typically what you'll find is if you can help them solve their problems and help them succeed and have it driven based off a number or whatever it may be, they're very likely to actually give you whatever you want.
Cool. I like that advice. Okay, now Neil, let's go on to some questions that came in through Facebook, okay? So from Troy Ersling, how do you hack your happiness?
Sure, so I love working. I'm addicted to it. I can't stop. I figure out all the stuff in my life that I don't like doing, and I figure out how to get it taken care of. So for example, the one thing I loved about being an Indian as a child, an Indian kid, parents do everything for you. I didn't have to do my laundry. I didn't have to cook or anything, right? They just did it all for me. And I bet you your parents, your dad's in the back, you probably did.
Don't say that. Everyone will want to be Indian.
That's right. You all can't, though. So what I ended up doing was, when I moved to Las Vegas, I posted an ad on Craigslist. It's like a classified ad site. I put an ad saying, looking for a mom. And I found a mom who was like 50 or 60 years old. I called her Mama. And she does everything. She comes every day, she cooks, she cleans, she makes my bed, does laundry. She even packed before I came internationally, like for 30 days for me. But I figure out all the stuff that I don't like doing in life, and I figure out how to get it done by other people.
So you hacked how did your real mom feel about that?
My real mom, because she's Indian and I'm skinny, she's just like, you don't eat enough. So if I had to spend money to pay someone to feed me, my real mom's happy.
That's good. I love how you think. So you hacked having a mom, you hacked dating, you hacked your happiness.
I hacked driving.
Tell us about that. How did you hack driving?
So I leased a really cheap car, and I figured out that I hated driving. You gotta pay for insurance and gas. And I barely use a car, but I had to go to the airport and all these places, and cab fares were adding up. So what I ended up doing is, entrepreneurs, a lot of them struggle. So I was like, you know what? And I met this guy named Phil. I'm like, you seem like an awesome, trustworthy guy. I'm gonna let you drive my car every day, whenever you want. Put it in your garage. Don't even bring it back to me. But anytime I have to go somewhere, you gotta pick me up, take me there. You gotta do the maintenance on the car, and you gotta pay for the gas. And it was cheaper than actually driving myself around. And it was a lease, so.
I love that. Give Neil a round of applause. Okay, let's, I'm fascinated by how you view the world, because I think so many of us are creatures of imitation. In fact, psychologically, human beings imitate. Very few people try to innovate or make rational decisions in terms of how they want to live life. They imitate, or they absorb ideas through social conditioning, and they choose to live like that. And hackers think differently. Hackers go beyond imitation. They look for unique ways to get to avoid A, B, C and go straight to Z. So you've told us a wide number of ways in which you hack the world around you. But if you had to create a class to teach people how to think like that, how to create shortcuts in life, what are the skills or the behaviors or the thought patterns they would need to learn?
So one, start doing critical thinking. There's problems online, such as there's a bridge. Only 2 people can walk across the bridge at a time. And it's nighttime, so you have a flashlight. Or I'll actually tell the whole story. There's 3 people in the woods. They got to get to the other side. There's a bridge that they have to cross. Now the issue with the bridge is only 2 people can walk across at the same time. And you need a flashlight so you can see. There's only 1 flashlight. So as you get across, 2 people get across, 1 person has to go back, get the other person, etc., right? So what's the quickest way to get across? And let's say there was 4 people instead of 3, right? You got to analyze. 1 person walks fast, 1 person takes 1 minute, 1 person takes 3 minutes, 1 person takes 5, 1 person takes 10. What's the quickest way? Because if 2 people walk together, the slowest person is the speed for the minute. So what's the quickest way? So you start looking at all these critical thinking problems and you actually try to solve them. It actually makes you become more creative, figure out solutions, right? Everyone just looks at the most logical solution. All right, let's put the slowest guy with the fastest guy, etc., and have them go across a bridge. That's not always the most efficient way. So start looking up these critical thinking problems on Google, learn them. You'll start learning how to actually think in a creative way. Then the next step is to figure out what you want in life and say, all right, if I had no money, how do I solve it? So for example, with my car situation, I wanted a driver, but I don't want to pay a driver. Most people would say, if you want a driver, you have to be rich. No, that's not necessarily the case. Imagine if you had no money, what are some crazy ideas? You could get together with 4 or 5 people. It's better to start with people and not do it by yourself. And together as a group, you come up with ways to actually solve these problems. Then eventually, you'll figure out how to solve these problems as your own, and then you can solve whatever you want in life. You just have to get into the mindset of not relying on conventional means, money or time or whatever it may be to solve problems. Because when you're backed up in a corner and you don't have these resources on your side, that's when you become creative and that's when you figure out solutions.
Beautiful. Thank you, Neil. Please give Neil a round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're done with the questions that I had prepared and questions that came in through Facebook. Now we'd love to take questions from the audience. We've gone into about 50 minutes now. And Jason, you got the mic ready? Okay, so what questions would you have for Neil? And again, just so you know, as we're doing this, I'm going to be I'm going to enforce moderation on these questions. We're looking for questions that are not just about your business, but questions through which if Neil answered, the majority of people in this room would actually benefit from it. So it's a question that's specific to just one person. We're just going to exit and we're going to move on, okay? And only 1 question. So when you stand up, don't try to cram 3 questions in there. I know some of you who do that. Just 1 question. Okay, who's first?
Well, I have the mic, so I'm going to take initiative. I'll ask the first one.
Go ahead, Jason.
You've hacked everything in your normal life, so I'd be curious to know, how was your life going through college or high school?
In college and high school, what I would do is I hired people from every one of my classes to do my homework. So I hired them as employees because they didn't want to do my homework. I was like, you want to work for my consulting company, yada, 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 you'll get paid X dollars. And then I'd be like, oh, by the way, you also had to do my homework assignments.
So wait. So you had people do your homework for you. Then you
Yes.
just show up for the final exam and ace it.
Not necessarily ace it, but what I did is we have an SAT in the US. The way I picked my college is there's test scores. So I looked at the mean, median SAT scores to show me how smart people are that go to that college. I made sure that my test score was well above the average, which means that if I didn't take any tests, right, or if I didn't study for a test, they couldn't fail half the student body, because I assumed that if I didn't study, I would do as well as half the class, and the college couldn't afford to fail half the student body, or else they wouldn't get government financing for their college. That's how I decided which college to go to.
Brilliant. Next question.
Hi, my name is Ping, and as many people say that if you want to make money, you should go to finance or business line. But if you study art, get shitty life, and that's very sad. But the question is, how will you market artworks?
How do you market on AdWords?
Artworks.
Oh,
Yes.
artwork. The way I would actually market artwork, because the thing with anything that is a luxury good, right? It doesn't even just have to be artwork. If it's rare and luxurious, what you have to do is all about brand association. You go find the most famous person that you can get access to that has an audience, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, etc. You go give them one of those pieces and you get them to post it online, because if they have it and they're famous, it's now worth something to everyone else, because that one person who's unique, well-known, has it. That's how I would market it. And I would do that with a lot of people. So I would take the artwork, give it to a lot of well-known celebrities, get them to put on Instagram, etc. If you can't get A-list celebrities, go down to B-list. Can't get B-list, go down to C, etc. And eventually, you'll be able to sell it for a premium.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question.
Hey, so which company outside of your own do you think is really nailing the content marketing game? And outside of like other content marketing specialists?
Yeah, all the other examples are like marketing firms that are good at it. Upworthy. Have you seen Upworthy?
Yeah.
They nail it. Why? Because they're all data and stats guys. And they figured out how to appeal to emotions. That's what they figured out makes things actually curiosity and emotions.
Yeah,
Makes
they have
content
a
go
whole
viral.
science behind it.
Yes, and they actually released their formula. Like if you Google like the Upworthy content formula, they actually talk about how they create viral content.
Yeah. Brilliant slide deck if you guys get a chance to check it out. They talk about how they find their headlines, how they make things go viral. It's amazing. If you guys get a chance to check it out, what's the Google key term?
Upworthy viral formula.
Upworthy viral formula. Okay, next question. The girl with the dating app.
Hi, sorry, not the girl dating app. Quick question though, content marketing's kind of taken off, and it seems like everyone has content teams now, and everyone knows what they're doing. What do you think the next big trend is in marketing, past content marketing?
Growth hacking. How you can hack product, engineering, flows, usability, right? Onboarding, all to generate more users. Good example is Dropbox.
Yes. Sorry, one second. We'll get you a mic.
Hi, I'm Shane. Just now we heard a question saying, how do you hack happiness? So what I want to know is, what makes you sad? What makes you angry? What gives you the negative emotion?
Inconvenience. Anything that's inconvenient and is a headache, I get rid of it. Even drama. If someone's drama in my life, I just say goodbye. Unless it's family, you can't really do anything.
Well, you did use a Craigslist ad to find a new mom.
That's true.
You had a question.
I'm Taj. Can you refer to us the 3 books on psychology that would help us to get the foundation? 3 of your favorite book.
So did you say refer to you 3 techniques in psychology that'll help you get started?
3 books. What would be actually? Let's make that general maybe. What are your top 3 or top 5 best books? The best books you've ever read that you'd recommend people here check out?
Okay, The Dip It actually tells you when to quit. I know that sounds silly. The Dip by Seth Godin, it tells you when to stick with the business or when to quit. Too many people stick with the business, right? Art of the Start, that book, a lot of people go into starting a business, and it's a huge misconception on how easy it is to start a company, etc. People don't know what they're actually getting
That's
into.
by Guy Kawasaki?
That's correct. And the third book, I forgot the title of it. I should know it. It's actually the life story of, I should know it. The guy's famous. Lightning. How do I know? Benjamin Franklin, right? So he actually did a lot of business stuff throughout his career, and you actually can learn a lot from his mistakes. And it's crazy all the innovation.
Is that by Walter Isaacson?
I believe it is, yes.
Right. That's the same guy who wrote the biography for Steve Jobs. I'm reading that book right now. It's a great book. So the question was, what are the top 3 books you'd recommend on psychology or to learn how to have a hacker mentality? Do you have a list for that?
I do not, but I'll give you 3 things that are better. Start with these 3 tactics. 1, start relating to people. So find out about their childhood, things that they did last year or recently, and start conversing. The older the story that they tell you, the better off you are, because then in their mind they'll be like, wait, I talked about this story that happened 30 years ago. Neil has a similar story that happened 30 years ago. Wow, I feel like I've known him for a long time. 2, look at behavior. So behavioral patterns of everyone that you think would meet with that person. If that person gets pitched a lot, do the opposite. Don't do what they're going to expect. Do the opposite of what they would expect, right? Don't be a prick. Like if they expect to have a polite meeting, don't go and spill coffee all over them, right? I don't mean opposite in that form. I mean opposite in from a conversation, business, etc. The third thing is locations. Don't stick with your meetings in one location. So if I was here coming to visit Mindvalley, Vishen for the first time, actually when I met Vishen for the first time, and he did this to me, I didn't even do it to him, we were in Southern California. We hopped around from different places. From one hotel, he's like, hey, let's check out dinner in this other place. Let's go to this other restaurant. So we went from one hotel to a Malaysian place, which we had a traditional Malay roti.
Right.
And then from there, we hopped around to a different hotel where we chilled and had drinks and dessert, and we chilled by the cabana outside. So we felt like we knew each other longer because we hopped around to multiple different places.
Yeah, I tricked him into that. So he would psychologically believe he knew me for longer than 24 hours and then give a talk here at the Hall of Awesomeness.
It worked.
Yeah. But if I could recommend the books, right? 3 books on psychology that really help you think like a hacker. Number 1 by far is Influence by Robert Cialdini. Cialdini's a professor at the University of Arizona. He studied 6 triggers that govern human behavior. So triggers that help make human beings do what they do. Amazing book. It's required reading for everyone who joins Mindvalley. It's called Influence by Robert Cialdini, and it's a fun book to read. Number 2, 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. He doesn't really teach you how to think like a hacker, but by reading his book, you understand how he thinks, and he is one of the ultimate hackers. I don't think he's anywhere as close to Neil, but he's a brilliant man too. So 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. The third one would probably be, actually, yes, The Game by Neil Strauss. That is an interesting book.
Isn't that supposed to be a book on, is it dating?
Yes. But you learn a lot about human psychology.
Got it. I was just like, what does that have to do with it? Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, next question. Anna. Oh, okay.
I really love the discussion. My question is, you said first you need to learn, but what if I am a rebel and I don't want to learn? What about consuming and creating for your personal needs and branding? For example, you write a lot. This is like the essential thing for branding. So how do you find time to learn and to consume and to create?
You actually learn by writing. When you actually write, you have to learn, consume, because you have to put it into practice, and then write on your learnings. It's actually one of the easiest things to do when it comes to learning is just start a blog. Because if you have a blog, you'll go through all the phases, and you'll actually get better at whatever topic you're actually writing on.
Okay. Next.
Hi, Neil. So I have a question about hacking, and it looks like you hacked everything around you, around your world. So what is the one thing that you haven't been able to hack, and that's like constantly on your mind, you can sleep all night, or like, what is the one thing that you can't really hack right now, or something that in the future?
how to sell a company for hundreds of millions of dollars that's like brand new.
Got a plan for that?
I want to do it. I figured out how to arbitrage companies, buy them for cheap and sell them for more the next day. But I haven't figured out on how to create a company that has little to no revenue, but you know a bigger company needs that, and how to get them to buy it right away. I haven't figured that out yet. I'm working on it.
I know someone I'll introduce you to who might be able to help you with that.
Awesome.
Next. You keep raising your hand. You've already asked a question. No, put that hand down.
Hey, hi Neil. Okay, so you mentioned about branding yourself. You know, as an entrepreneur, you usually brand the company, the brand that you're working on, or whatever. So, how do you? What would you suggest for an entrepreneur to go about branding themselves, the person?
Go to networking events, number one, talk to more people. Number two, when people ever have questions, whether it's Twitter, Quora, or just in person, help them out, try to provide the value for free. If you don't know the answer, get their contact information, say, you know what, let me look into it, I'll email you a response, right? Number three, speak. Even if you haven't spoke at any events before, email people who are throwing events and offer to speak. Eventually someone's gonna say yes.
And we have tons of events happening here at the Hall of
Thank you.
Awesomeness. They're always looking for good speakers in everything from like growth hacking to marketing to technology and web development.
Okay, thank you, Neil, for coming here. My question is...
How did she get the mic again?
Someone give me the mic.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure,
taking
Samina.
consideration that startups don't have money to have huge launches of your products, what channels do you recommend in order to promote your to promote your product? And should you start local or take huge risk and go global with your product?
Start local first, especially if you don't have much money. And when you're looking at channels, it shouldn't be I'm going to do SEO or PPC first or any of those. It's who can I get to help me promote this product? There is someone, people are people. If someone is doing a dating app or buying a piece of art, people are people. Someone else has that same person on their list and they probably have your whole audience. How can you actually find that person, network with them, work out a deal where they promote your product or service to their entire list? That's what I would do if I was starting out a new product.
Hello, Neil. My question, you mentioned that you are choosing your employees for values and beliefs. Can you please name them? What are the values and beliefs that you're looking for in the team?
And it's so bad because we have 7 and I don't even know all of them.
Neil, let me just repeat that so the camera captures that. So you mentioned earlier that when you pick employees, their values and their beliefs are really important. What are these values and beliefs that you put value on?
Sure. So a few of them are transparency, loyalty, trust. What else is there? Ethics is a big one, right? I don't like people who are going to screw others over. Like they do the right thing even if it hurts them. So those are like some of the main ones. We also look for people who put others before themselves. So all those types of things. And you can tell, like when you look at a resume, if someone is hopping around from jobs, I don't care how good they are, I will not touch them.
Hi, Neil. So in Malaysia, our Facebook users or Facebook active users are quite big. So how do you hack Facebook? Because without ads, without paying sponsors or paying ads, because in Malaysia, because I realized that when I use my email or do the auto campaign email, it's not really working in Malaysia.
I would say that question might be a little bit too technical and too specific. Do you have any advice on using Facebook as a marketing tool?
Yes, if you're going to use Facebook as a marketing tool, send someone within Facebook to a landing page, a fan page. Within that fan page, collect emails. Don't ask for a name and an email. Instead, use Facebook authentication because they're already on Facebook, which means that Facebook has their name and email. And with a click of a button, they can show you their name and email and authenticate so they don't have to type it in. Converts extremely well from there. You can pitch them on whatever product.
And should that landing page be on Facebook or outside
on
Facebook?
On Facebook within a fan page. You know how you create a tab?
Right. Right. Did you guys get that? So if you're collecting leads on Facebook, you put up your advertisement, they click on the ad, they come to the landing page, which is in your fan page. It's a special tab in your fan page. There are software and tools that you can use for that. But don't ask them to give you their first name and email to get your free sample. They would just click Facebook notification, You can get their name and email from Facebook notification if they, assuming they allow you. You now have your lead and they have their free sample. Then now you can do what you normally do with your lead. Next.
Hi, Neil. As you know, Google changes the search algorithm all the time. So are you able to identify a pattern or give us some sort of tips like for the future of search results?
Yes.
Okay,
Creating
thanks.
value wins every time. Creating the best product, the best content, whatever it may be, typically causes you to win. Don't worry about their algorithm updates. Do what's best for your customer, and they will try to eventually rank you #1 if you're the one who's doing best for the customers within that industry.
One of the things I learned from Neil, and I'll share this, but first just to think about Google, right? Nobody can hack Google. A lot of people here are in the business of search engine optimization, but Google employs some of the smartest people in the world. But what Neil has found, and what I learned from Neil, is that if you get really good content out, and people are sharing that content, and it's world-class content, that is what gets you like amazing traffic from Google. Now what I learned from you, Neil, was we have a blog, and what you said is rather than putting up a blog post every day, which some people say you should do, you put up a blog post every day so you get tons of traffic from SEO. Neil said that's dumb. Don't put up a blog post every day. Create just maybe one post a week, but make that post really, really, really good. Because one incredibly good piece of content is worth 100 random blog posts. It's quality, not quantity. Would that be correct?
Yes.
So when we started doing that, we found that those single pages that we'd put up, we'd do one really good one a week rather than multiple. But that would score so high in Google, we'd get 100 times the traffic from that as we would regular mediocre blog post.
Hey, Neil, you hack a lot, so how do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? What will you be hacking? What's the focus?
To be honest, I don't know. I'll probably end up doing the same thing and just having the same life. Hopefully I've made more money by then.
Hey Neil, so if I'm based in Malaysia, what would be your best way to hack networking with people in the other part of the world, like say anywhere else in the world, the US, UK, etc.?
You shouldn't. There's no point. There's enough business in Malaysia where you should focus on this market. Why try to go into a new market where you have to learn the culture, you're not there? It's already hard to make a business work. Networking, meeting other people, and doing stuff overseas is not easy. First figure it out within your own country, actually even your own city, before you try to expand.
Let me ask let me just follow up to that question, Neil. Let's say, and now, maybe I'm asking you to give up too much, but let's say someone here met you at an event like this, or met any other speaker at an event like this, and they wanted to approach you to get your email address so they could send you an idea or just connect with you for drinks later on. If it wasn't a pretty girl, how would they actually get your attention or get you to respond?
And funny enough, as a pretty girl, I usually would blow them off as well, just like with most people. The issue I end up having is it doesn't matter if you're pretty, ugly, a guy, doesn't matter what race. I get so many emails and inquiries that I just don't have the time to meet up with too many people. So I'll help people out over email no matter who they are, and I'll try to answer everyone, assuming they sent me one question in an email, no more than that. It was no more than a few lines. I'll try to do my best to answer it. The moment they ask me for paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff, I'm not going to read it. So that would be your best approach. And that's with anyone busy. Don't try to ask them out for beer, coffee, etc. Their time is valuable. They usually don't have enough of it. You should just try to say, hey, do you mind if I ask you one question over email? Won't be more than 1 or 2 sentences. And that's it. They'll either say yes or no.
And if you were at an event like this, and I don't mean you specifically, but a lot of people here attend a lot of networking events, and they meet someone that is distinguished or maybe a speaker, and they want to get that person's email address. How would they go about it?
Either ask them or Google their name. Usually if they're well known, their email address is public.
Good point. Next question.
Hi. So you engage a lot of people through personal engagement first, and then you turn them into a business relationship. But at what point do you know to turn a personal engagement into a business relationship? Because most of the time this could be treated as taking advantage or something along that line.
You never turn it. It happens naturally, in which there's a point where there's like, I need help with this. I'm like, oh, I can help with that. And they're like, I'll just help you out for free. And in many cases, they'll be like, no, I don't want you to help me out for free. I'll pay you for it. And if you want the money, you can accept it. But it'll happen naturally and both parties will go towards that direction. Never want to force it.
Hi, Neil.
Hi.
You seem to have a natural flair to growth hack every single thing in your life. So would you say that it's actually an inherent quality, or is there somebody that you looked up to that inspired you to become what you are today?
I don't think it's an inherent quality. I don't think I looked up. I just think I'm crazy. That's the reason I'm like that. That's pretty much it. I've always been a big believer that you can get anything you want in life. And it's just time and trying to be creative and figuring out how to get it.
Do you have siblings? Are they like you?
I do. I have one sister. She married my business partner. She's much more relaxed and easygoing in life. She doesn't like stress. She's awesome. She's more so, I'm going to sit at home, do the accounting, and whatever happens, happens. I don't need to look for loopholes or anything. The difference between her and I is she's a big penny pincher, right? Instead of trying to hack life, she just looks at, how can I save every single penny?
And what is your view?
On saving?
No, is your view, are you saying that your view is the polar opposite? How can I make as much as possible?
That's correct. So for me, instead of worrying about cooking, I'll hire someone to cook my meals for me every single day. She looks at it as, oh no, I can figure out how to get the food for free. I'll cook it myself, or let me get my mom to come up here and cook for me, whatever it may be. But me is, I'd rather make more money than worry about saving, because time-wise, the making more pays for all that plus more.
And that's something that's really, something I notice really common in high-performing individuals. It's not about trying to save money. All through childhood, you learn that saving is a virtue. It's actually highly inefficient. What I found that many high-performing individuals, you included, me, even people I've spoken to like Richard Branson, what they do is they look at whatever work they do on an hourly basis that is less than what they can get if they were, say, on a phone making a business deal. So you calculate your hourly rate. So a high-performing individual, their hourly rate may be something as high as like $500 to $2,000 an hour. And if there's anything you have to do, even if it's driving yourself home for an hour-long commute, well, why not outsource that? Hire a driver, or do one of Neil's hacks, but then use that time to actually be on the phone doing what you do to make that money. And when you do that, you steadily increase your value higher and higher and higher.
That's correct.
Other questions?
Hi. So, here. Sure, here.
Okay.
There you are.
So, I would like to ask, for a guy with a non-tech guy with zero programming background, whatever, what would you suggest, or what are the advices that you would give this guy for them to start a startup?
You don't have to be a technical founder. I'm not technical. My co-founder wasn't technical. Either A, you learn it, because if you really want to learn something, you can. Or B, you go and network and find the other person who's the yin to your yang, who is that technical co-founder. You partner up with them, give them equity, and have them do the development. You do the business end.
How?
Hello here.
I was going to say we're going to
So,
cap it at 2 more questions.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to ask you, what is the advice you can give the people who currently work under a company, but they would like to start up with their own ideas? What kind of challenges?
Okay, I'll just repeat that for the camera. What advice would you give someone who currently has a job but would like to transition to having their own business?
Whatever you want to do, start it at night and on the weekends. And once it becomes big enough where you can quit your job, then quit your job. But start it during your off hours.
Just to add to that point, one of the dumbest things I see wannabe entrepreneurs do is quit their job and try to start a business. What happens is as soon as you quit your job, you lose your income. Now your business is make it or break it. And if you read books that say if you really believe in your idea, quit and dedicate full time to it, dumb advice. In most cases, your failure rate statistically is going to be 19 out of 20. So what Neil said is actually very true. It's how I started. I was working on Mindvalley for an hour every day for 1 year at night, building it up. When it got to a level where it was paying, not as much as my existing job, but just enough where I could survive and eat, then I quit. Because now I had income coming in. You see, what kills people is the stress. And if you take the stress of starting a business with the stress of not having any income, that's going to put you in a really bad mental state. And entrepreneurship is a game just like sports where you got to be in the zone. So you should always start your business at night while holding on to a steady job. It will delay the point at which you have a successful company, but you are going to be so much safer, and your success rates multiply by almost a factor of 10 or 20.
And also look at entrepreneurship. Mindvalley does this. If you actually look at a lot of the people who run different sections of Mindvalley, I'm assuming they actually came from Mindvalley first, they worked here.
Right.
Then they had the opportunity to go and start their own thing. If you want to start your own business and you think it's relevant to the company you're working at, actually talk to them about it. In many cases, they'll actually support you, help you get it off the ground. And yeah, you may not own 100% of it, but it'll probably be bigger, and your portion of the pie will be worth more money than if you owned 100%.
Right, people completely forget that hack. If you're working at a job and you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't have to quit and take all that risk. You can start a business within your existing company by pitching an idea to your existing CEO or founder, because all companies are looking for opportunities to expand. And if they already know you and you have a hot idea and you're a chief performer, why not invest in you? I've personally invested in about 10 employee ideas. And many of these employees became millionaires, got really successful businesses because we were working together as a team.
Yeah, Expedia came out of Microsoft. Tinder came out of Match, IAC, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I didn't know
That's
that.
who funded it.
Next.
Yeah, one last question. So Neil, the bottom line is what you do is you sell, right? How would you sell to this crowd your cup of water right now?
So that's the thing about me. I'm not a salesperson when it comes to selling a cup of water. I can't sell that to you. But what I can do is you give me 1,000 cups of water or 1,000,000 of them, I'll go to Walmart and sell them all to one person. That's my specialty. I suck at relating to individuals. I'm great at selling to large corporations.
Brilliant response.
So guys, I think you've been a very good crowd, amazing questions. Did you guys have any final words to leave with the crowd before we...
Neil? Any final words or advice to the many, you just came in from Magic where you gave a speech to how many people?
I have no idea.
Right. Roughly several hundred thousands, let's say. What advice would you give to the people in this room who are aspiring entrepreneurs here in Kuala Lumpur?
Don't expect to be rich on your first startup. Expect to do well on your third one. Your first one, you fail, you make a lot of mistakes. Second one, if you're lucky, it does all right. Third one, you should do pretty well, as long as you keep learning from your mistakes and you avoid repeating them over and over again.
Thank you. Please give Neil a round of applause. Thanks, Neil. Thanks. Back to Jason.
All right. Let's give them one more round of applause as they walk off the stage. So this concludes the evening of Inside the Mind of. Did you guys like that? Do you guys want to be notified if we do any more of these? All right, so for everyone, I hope you had registered over Eventbrite. This is how we get you guys to come over here. If not, they should have taken your email at the door. So we'll be notifying you with anything that was discussed throughout the event. We'll send you links to QuickSprout and anything that will be relevant for you from Neil or from Vishen. And we're going to have some more events like this, Vishen interviewing more rockstar entrepreneurs. You'll all be notified whenever these happen. And thank you all for coming. I hope you guys had a great time. Safe journey home, and we hope to see you next time.